Hey, I'll get my background up in 1 second.
Uh, so how do we, oh, okay, choose virtual background, got it.
Jillian, I'm making you co-host.
Thanks, Kim.
Are we supposed to use that in background? Where is it at? Sorry if I missed that.
That's okay. Here, let me Teams it to you.
Okay.
Oh, Melanie, I can Teams message it to you.
And whomever wants to.
Kim, there isn't anyone else we're waiting for, right? I have somebody, Brittany Fulton, in the
Brittany
waiting
should
room.
be here. Yes. Sorry, I
Okay.
can't see the meeting
No,
room.
that's okay. I'll admit. I just wanted to be sure it wasn't a student.
I accidentally did that one time. I admitted a student while we were waiting. And I was like, oh, I gotta kick you out. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have the screen share, the screen thing to make my background, but I don't, I'm struggling to do that. I know
If
how to do
you
it.
if you hover over your video and then you see the three dots,
Yes.
then that I think what's the next step? There should be
Choose
like a
virtual background.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
How did you all make it show up on the right side? Like mine just automatically shows up backwards.
Mine's on the wrong side. Yeah, I feel like
It,
mine's
it
not
looks
on the
correct
right
to us, but it's
It
backwards.
does? Oh, okay, mine looks backwards
Oh.
to me.
Yeah, mine's opposite, like from my view. So everybody looks good.
I was getting really tripped up on that.
We all showed up with like the reverse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry y'all, I'm like having a moment. All of my settings are weird.
Hello, Brittany.
Hey,
This fun fact for everybody here. This is actually my first time to ever do anything to my background ever.
Me too.
I usually just let it ride.
Brittany, did you have any last minute questions for me? I know you weren't able to make the prep meeting, but wanted to make sure you feel okay.
no. The video that you recording, I watched the recording that y'all did. That was amazing. Everything seems pretty straightforward. So thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, we have a few minutes, so we can just hang out until we let folks in.
Got me admin access. I feel like
I'm sorry, Kim, did let me know when I should start admitting
I
folks
really appreciate the time, man.
at the hour.
Yeah, we can start admitting right at 4.
Okay.
Thanks, Julian.
Beautiful.
already got 10 in the waiting room. Folks are prompt today.
All right, we can start letting folks in.
Okay, I'll start letting everybody in.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and welcome to the Grow Your Career Series Supply Chain and Retail Operations session. As we are kind of settling in, I would love to hear where you guys are coming from or where you're joining us from. So if you could put in the chat, maybe the city that you're currently in or the university that you attend. I'd love to hear from you. Austin. I'm also currently in Austin right now, and I think most of the folks on the call are as well. So thank you for joining. Alrighty, we got Washington, D.C., Milwaukee, Madison, Wisconsin, UNC Chapel Hill, New Orleans. I see 2 folks from Harrisonburg. Indiana University, USC, another USC folk. Awesome, that's wonderful. So thank you guys so much for contributing. I think we're starting to slow down on folks joining. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So nice to meet you. My name is Kim Vo. I am the campus recruiting specialist here at Whole Foods Market. I've been with the company for almost 3 years now. And I support our campus recruiting program, our internship program, also partnering with universities to do events and career fairs, just to share a little bit more about the different paths and opportunities that you have here. I have a wonderful panel here to talk about supply chain and retail operations, and I'll introduce them to you in just a second. We will take about maybe 35 minutes to do a planned panel portion, and then we'll open it up to live Q&A towards the end of it. So if you have any questions during the call for our panelists, please put it in the Q&A box. and we'll try to get to as many as possible. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Alrighty, I'll start off with intros. If you could share your name, role, how long you've been at Whole Foods Market, and your favorite Whole Foods Market product. We'll start off with Arthi, and then I'll kind of just let the next person know when we're ready for the next person.
Great. So hi, everyone. My name is Arthi, and I am a senior logistics analyst on the Whole Foods exclusive brands logistics team. I've been at Whole Foods for about a year and a half, and my favorite Whole Foods product is the Honey Mama's lavender chocolate.
Thanks, Arthi. Melanie, do you want to go next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie. I'm the current team leader for our logistics team for exclusive brands. I have about 6 analysts that report up to me. Arthi and I work closely together within the same team. And I am an alum from the University of Texas. I went to McCombs and got a supply chain degree. So I'm one of the rare few that can say they're doing exactly what they studied in college. I know that's very strange. I feel like a lot of people I know don't do that, but I am one of the rare few. And I've been at Whole Foods for about, it'll be 5 years actually in a few days. So yeah, I've been here for a while. I love it. And my favorite Whole Foods Market product, it changes, oh my God, so often. But I just recently became gluten-free, and we just launched gluten-free 365 vanilla and chocolate sandwich creams. So like Oreos basically. And they are so good. Yeah, so they're on the shelf now. You should go get some.
Thanks, Melanie. Andy, do you want to go next? And then we'll finish up with Brittany.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Andy McAllister. I've been with Whole Foods for a little over 16 years. I work on the inventory execution team, so we do like inventory and order placement across for the stores for all vendors, all stores. And my favorite Whole Foods Market product, I'm a big cold cereal guy, so I'm gonna say the Panda Puffs cereal.
Brittany, you're on mute.
I thought the space bar would do it, but it didn't. Hi again. My name is Brittany. I'm a whole body senior inventory planner. I do inventory forecasting for our bath and body, personal care, seasonal categories. I think I might take the tenure with 18 years with Whole Foods Market. And my favorite product is our in-house made guacamole. It's my absolute favorite.
Thanks all. I'm constantly learning about different products and things for me to try whenever I ask that question. So it's really for me more than like anybody on the call. So we hear varying degrees of tenure at Whole Foods. I'd love to kind of learn a little bit more about your career path and how you got to Whole Foods. Melanie, I know you mentioned going directly with your major and what you learned in school, but let's see like if anybody has any like fun stories. Let's actually start with Brittany, and then we'll kind of work backwards and go Andy, Melanie, and then Arthi.
Yeah, so I was 19 when I started at a Whole Foods Market, and it was just a job to get paid and get through. So I started as a cashier, but I quickly fell in love with the company and everything that the company stands for. So I've just spent the last 18 years kind of slowly working my way up. Worked in their customer service department in the stores. I was a store artist for a few years. We don't have those anymore, but I used to make signs and draw on chalkboards. Then I went into our product departments, and I worked in whole body as an order writer. Then I moved into leadership in our whole body department, and for Whole Foods, whole body is like the health and beauty department. I was a regional buyer for our South region, so I moved to our regional team and bought for 48, 49 stores, and now I am a whole body senior inventory planner.
Nice. I didn't know you were an artist, Brittany. That's cool. So I've originally worked for Best Buy for quite a while, and I just one day realized, hey, I don't know why I work for an electronics company. I don't really care much for electronics, but here I am on a computer all day. But that aside, I decided to come work at Whole Foods Market, and I started with a catering facility that was at the back of the downtown Austin store. And I really just started by slinging boxes of onions and potatoes and taking out the trash. That's what I did for a good 3 years. And then I became a accounting specialist where I worked on invoicing and all that. And then I moved to the Southwest regional office where I was a category manager for whole body, and then grocery and meat and produce. And I did, category analytics. I set up new items in our systems, did reporting, and I did some cost accuracy and PO admin work, which is like, purchase orders, like reconciling invoicing to our system and making sure everything matches up. And then I eventually moved on to the global, well, we used to call it global, it's the store support offices for the global data team, where I do what I do now. And that's just placing centralized orders for all the stores across the US for new items, promos. We actually work in tandem with Brittany's team. We process the orders that her team puts together, and we, again, communicate those to the suppliers and enter them into our systems. So.
Okay. So I actually didn't start at Whole Foods. I started at another Austin-based company, a jewelry company. You could probably deduce which one it is. Pretty big one. And I worked in the warehouse there. Quickly realized warehouse life was not for me. But I am forklift certified, so I can still drive a forklift if I need to. But I quickly remembered when I was in college, I used to drive by Whole Foods all the time and be like, oh my God, it would be incredible if I could ever work here. But at the time, they didn't offer entry-level positions or internships. So I kind of just had to abide my time until, this job opened up. And I started at Whole Foods as a logistics analyst on this team, and then became a senior, and then got promoted into the team leader role, where now I am have a team of logistics analysts that operate under different categories within our exclusive brands. So when we say exclusive brands, we mean all of our private label items. So anything you see that's 365 or Whole Food Market label, my team helps get product to the warehouses that we use, and then eventually getting to the store, which is where we kind of work tandemly with Brittany and Andrew's inventory planning team. They handle a lot of the store inventory, and my team will handle the warehouse inventory. So as you can imagine, right now is a pretty hectic time for us, because we are trying to make sure we have everything in for Thanksgiving. But I love it. I'm obsessed with food supply chain. I think it's one of the most pivotal parts of our supply chain, and it's the most interesting to me because it's just so variable. Yeah, that's me.
And so even though I am on the same team as Melanie, I have probably a lot less experience with supply chain and logistics. I actually studied econ at UC San Diego, and then I got a master's in finance at USC. And I see a couple of other Trojans are on this call, so yay. And so in my master's, I worked with a lot of large financial data sets using R programming for the first time. And that led me to my first job as a business analyst at a finance company in San Diego. And there I became a lot more up to speed with data tools like SQL, SAS, and Excel. And I pivoted more into a more purely data analytics role within a marketing company after that. And at that job, I learned a lot more about like data visualizations through Tableau and how to just make more user-friendly graphical models. And this gave me the complete skill set that I needed for my current job as a logistics analyst at Whole Foods. It's kind of my first time really working with a lot of the supply chain logistics related data, but I think just having a really solid like data foundation helps me understand these concepts and these new metrics a lot easier now.
Thanks all. Thank you for sharing how you got here and your different paths. It's always interesting to hear like whether people were interested in Whole Foods from the very beginning or whether they just kind of like fell at the company and learned to love it. I'd love to hear what your day-to-day actually entails. We got a little bit of a highlight or overview of what your position is, but like, let's get into the details of what you do on a day-to-day basis. So let's actually go Andrew and Brittany, since you guys are on similar teams. If you guys want to bounce off of each other, and then we'll go Arthi and Melanie.
Sure, I'll start off. I'll be honest, a lot of what I do is involved in Microsoft Office, the versions of Excel. We've built a lot of macros and applications built using Excel. So a lot of it is those skills, and also just the communication of orders. A lot of the order writing we do does not electronically send. Some of it does, but most of it is through email communication. So we have, that's one skill set as far as written communication that we've had to really work on and make sure we're clear and clarifying things, and getting confirmations back from vendors and suppliers, keeping track of that in Excel files, and a lot of SharePoint work as far as shared documents and OneNote. Primarily that's on my realm, but Brittany, I know her team uses a little bit more robust tools and data sets to pull together the data that my team transmits.
We have a data whiz on our team who pulls together a lot of those data sets for us and really makes some really easy plug and play tools. For like the day-to-day in my role, a lot of it is inventory forecasting based. And I forecast inventory for special like events, so round work, category round work, and new items. Each month, a separate category will reset based on lots of different reasons, but any new items that we bring in the store, inventory planning, our team will forecast what we think those new items are going to do, what our inventory needs are, monthly promotions, all the things that you see with sales tags on the shelf. We're forecasting what the inventory needs we think we're going to need for that item, and all of our seasonal events. So holidays, spring, any kind of in and outs, things that you only see one time. So spring would be a good one, would be like bubbles, and summer is a good back to school. Fall, obviously we've got all the fall candles and fun things. So we work with category merchants, and we work with our distributor partners. UNFI is a big one on inventory preparedness. So based on our forecasts, how ready are we for these events? If we're not ready, then we work with our merchant partners or our EV partners like Melanie on what we need to do to get ready to make sure that we have the inventory, and help to address any concerns. And then we write a bunch of allocations. Once we know the inventory is there, we use Excel as a huge platform that we use. We just write a bunch of allocations, get it out to the stores, get it on the shelf, and move on to the next event.
So I work more in the data space, just kind of like supplementing a lot of these projects that Brittany just talked about for my exclusive brands team for folks like Melanie. And so I spend about 40% of my week just refreshing reports that I've created or I'm taking over, or just creating to help with ongoing like seasonal or annual projects through like Alteryx, Excel, and Tableau for the exclusive brands team to view. And then about another 40% of my week would go to report development projects, ad hoc requests, and data pulls that other team members ask for. So a lot of times when we do have all this data, a lot of our like sourcing leaders and our logistics analysts don't quite have the time to put together like a full view to see something week over week, month over month. So I kind of help with creating that historical view that would allow them to make these forecasts and projections. And then the final chunk of my work would be a lot of different types of meetings, both with my team to align on current and future projects, and also just routine check-ins to see how existing projects and existing work functions are going.
Yeah,
So like my role is I feel like ever changing every day. Especially right now. I think I have a team that is incredible in how they look outward and also just react to certain issues that come up. Like for instance, I'll just use an example as today, things that I was, working on today. I was helping out with our pet food program. So we are determining if we have a need for an inventory preparedness bump for December for our dog chews, for our Himalayan 365 dog chews that we have for our Whole Paws program. Turns out, yeah, we see huge spikes in demand there. So we are, engaging our inventory planning team, Brittany and Andrew. There's a grocery side as well that is helping us gauge, what does that look like? And then my team is then talking to the supplier. Can you handle this production? Do you foresee any sort of, issues going forth with that? So I usually step in and help with really difficult kind of escalation points like this, where we need to have like a firm, definitive answer on things. Additionally, we're having issues with our seasoning program. So our conventional seasonings are seeing a huge pull right now, and we're trying to understand the root cause of, why aren't they producing to our forecasts that we sent them? Where's the delay in transportation within our intermodal DCs? What are we seeing there? So I was, on a strategy call with that, trying to figure out how do we get our, ground cloves in for Thanksgiving, which is a huge seller of ours. So those are just a little tidbits of things that I experience every single day. And then I'm mostly available for my team to bounce ideas off of, or if they need help sitting in on a supplier call or a Unify call, I'm there to help strategize however I can. And then just, another whole faction is dealing with Amazon, which we don't need to get into right now, but Arthi and I know that very well. That's just a whole other portion of our business is dealing with Amazon as well.
Thanks, y'all. There's so many complex projects and problems to be had running a grocery store. And then I'm sure there are a lot of like unique sets of issues that you have to work with as well. So kind of transitioning to that side of the work, can you share maybe things that are different, or how does working at Whole Foods in supply chain, logistics, retail operations, how does that differ from different companies or other companies? Let's start with Melanie and then go Brittany, Arthi, and then Andrew.
My biggest learning curve was I came from jewelry, which does not have a shelf life, which can sit on a rack in a warehouse for years and like no issue. That is not the case with grocery, obviously. There's always a shelf life attached to everything, which was really hard for me to like conceptualize coming into it. And now I feel like it's kind of second nature, but that's definitely a learning curve. To people I see too that come on my team that aren't from a food industry, that do struggle with like, how much inventory should we keep on a frozen item? How much inventory should we keep on cottage cheese? Those are going to be two very different types of inventory, or types of product that, might code out sooner than the other. So things like that were a little difficult for me to grasp, but now I think it's kind of a fun little skill and party trick that I have with my friends when I go through their fridge.
So I've worked with Whole Foods, I'm going to say half my life. So I don't have a lot of experience with other companies and what differs. Kind of like thinking about what Melanie was saying, I know for my category specifically, when you look at like bath and body and personal care, there are a lot of seasonal items that you wouldn't necessarily think to be seasonal. So lotion definitely has a spike on when it sales. Bug spray, sunscreen, different. You really have to put your mindset when you're looking at forecasting inventories for specific categories. And I think this is true across all of our categories. I think it's important to put yourself in the mind of the customer and when you use the product and when you're going to see the boost in sales and when you want to pull back on like your inventory needs.
So this is my first time working in the supply chain industry, so this is really the only supply chain I have experienced. But for my role specifically, I would say that the biggest difference compared to other analytics jobs is the metrics that get tracked here. This is my first time really looking at inventory levels, fill rates, in-stock rates, different forms of sales, and just tracking products that go from like the supplier to the distribution center to the stores and how all of those rates work out. So I've definitely had to get up to speed on some common trends here in this role.
So like I had mentioned, I came from Best Buy, where that's the electronics world, and similar to Melanie, you know, electronics can sit there forever and be fine. But so one thing that did change from that realm to coming into Whole Foods Market was dealing now, or I'm sorry, at Best Buy with more perpetual inventory, where things were very easy to keep track of as far as, yes, we had 5 TVs come in, we sold 3, we have 2 left. But in the grocery industry, there's a lot more to it than that. You know, boxes and things get damaged in shipping. You have spoilage, things like that. Things are highly perishable. And also you have the dynamic nature of fads, like within the food industry, or like we had a recent thing with, you know, a certain vitamin or supplement where they were flying off the shelf. Brittany's smiling, she knows what I'm talking about, and we couldn't keep up with it. And so there's all different sorts of things that you have to consider when in that sort of food realm, and it's just a lot more dynamic, and you have to be a lot more quick on your feet to pivot, I would say, coming into this realm from my past one.
Thanks, all. So the next question, there's kind of 2 points of views or 2 ways that we can tackle this. The question was, how can candidates stand out whenever they're applying for internships or full-time roles? Some of you are leaders who have hired interns and employees before. So what are some things that you're looking for? And then if you haven't hired folks before, what are some things that you do yourself to try to like stand out from the crowd? Let's start with Melanie, since you're actually hiring an intern right now. And then we'll go Arthi, Brittany, and Andrew.
Yeah. So as Kim mentioned, I am hiring for a summer intern. I currently have an intern. And then I've had an intern actually for the last 3 semesters for college. So this current one, summer, and then the fall previously. And what I've seen that's really helpful is, and I know we've said this a lot, is like, you have to have data skills, like especially to come into supply chain, being able to read data, being able to manipulate data, and being able to understand like intermediate to advanced Excel formulas, specifically like, you know, your like standard VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, being able to create very movable pivot tables, macros are a plus. Anything like that would really set you apart from the rest, and what I've seen be really successful in our internship, and even with people that are under me as well. And I know Arthi might say the same thing. I mean, like just having a knowledge base in data is huge right now. So that's kind of what to be honest, what my first round has been, is if you aren't scoring in a certain realm of the Excel test, unfortunately, like I feel like you would struggle, and that's just more of a, you know, benefit to you as well to not have that base coming in. Do you require Six Sigma? No, not for our roles. We're not necessarily working directly in the warehouses, so we wouldn't have a Six Sigma, but it's something that I'm interested in too. I have some background in Six Sigma, so I would love to go up in the belts within that. That's really it. I would say Excel. I know that sounds like, you know, very basic, but also just if you've taken some operations courses or supply chain courses, you know, anything of that nature is also a plus. I think that's a really good thing to have on your resume if you want to come into this industry.
Yeah, so I'd agree. Just with the interns that Melanie has helped recruit and I've worked with, I've seen that, yeah, being solid in data is just the biggest area that sets someone apart and sets them up for success. But beyond that, like I know a lot of you are in college and may not have had like that many real work experiences where you would have been exposed to this type of data at this level. So I think just having a willingness to like kind of look things up on your own and kind of go put it on yourself to find the right resources to get things answered is really important. I definitely see a big difference between interns who are able to just kind of figure out on their own what the issue is and what are ways I can solve this and who can I reach out to versus ones who are like, I just don't know how to do it and like, I don't know what to do next and just kind of stopping there and waiting for someone else to do it for them. So I think just the willingness to like try to reach out and talk to people and learn when you don't know something is also really, really important in this type of role.
I mean, I agree with everything that's already been said. Being solution oriented is really big. So to Arthy's point, like, are you going out there and trying to find the answer? Having a good attitude, I know it sounds really simple and basic, but having a good attitude goes a long way. Communication is a big piece too. And a willingness to learn, and knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know is really important.
Yeah, all of that's really good. I'm trying to think of anything I can add additionally. I would say highlighting, I guess, aptitude is a really good word I can think of here as far as like ability to learn or desire to learn. I think when I think of like resumes or applications and things, the ones that stand out to me are ones that highlight like projects where taken something and moved forward with it. I look at that much more than I do like a bullet list of all the things that are known, because all of those things can be learned, but there's that aptitude that I think is something that you can't necessarily teach. And regarding Whole Foods specifically, I would encourage people to embrace their personality and don't shy away from that. Really embrace that. Be yourself, be unique. That's what our culture is built on here. So really highlight that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring your whole self. Just even to kind of taking a step back from like the hiring manager phase of things. As a recruiter, some things that help you stand out. Cover letters. You'll be surprised that not everyone writes a cover letter, and it really helps fill in the gaps of your resume. Let's say you're making like a career change or a pivot. I may look at your resume and say like, huh, this person doesn't really have a supply chain background. But if you write me a letter explaining what you've done and how you're going to apply that to this role, I think that's super helpful. Sending out LinkedIn messages, I may not always see it or like be able to reply, but at least you've made the initiative to make that extra connection. And then at Whole Foods, just passion for the company, our mission, food goes a long way. You don't have to be the #1 shopper here, but if you can make a connection to how this relates to your values and how you align, I think that really stands out to us as well. The last question I have before we kind of move over to open Q&A is what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self if you were to look back and share maybe a piece of advice that you know now? Let's work backwards from who I see on the screen. So we'll go Andrew, Brittany, Melanie, and then Arthy.
Okay, I come from a very logical family. Everything's super logical. So I thought I had to have everything mapped out, all my next steps. And I would say, I think there's a lot of room to embrace what you're feeling in the moment or what just kind of interests you. Like, don't be afraid to dabble. You know, if you like Whole Foods, but you're not sure exactly what you would want to do, there are a lot of different paths and avenues here in the company. If you get your foot in the door, you can learn like, oh, I'm here in data, but I'm really interested in the merchandising role or something, or marketing, whatever it may be. So I would just say, don't be afraid to just kind of experiment. You don't have to have every single thing mapped out, but just, go by whatever interests you at the time, I would say.
Say know your boundaries, but be flexible. Flexibility is a big thing. And honestly, change is inevitable in business, and the people who know how to embrace change and work with change and find their place within change, I find have been the most successful versus individuals who really stand up against the change that comes.
Echoing everything they said, I think 20-year-old me was really focused on the name of the company that I was going to, especially coming from the school that I was at, business school. I'm sure some of you guys are at differing business schools or programs that, you know, are like, you got to go to these Fortune 500 companies, you got to do this, you got to do that to be successful. And that's just simply not the case. I mean, I didn't go that route. I thought I was going to with my internship. I hated it. And I ended up going to, like I said, a jewelry company here in Austin. And that was my first job. And then I came here to Whole Foods, which, you know, we're a big company, but, you know, it's not that like grueling every single day. You're grinding. Like, you know, you just find what fits you. And if that's your fit, then go for it. But don't get so caught up in like the only way to be successful is to work for, you know, Google or whatever, which is cool if you want to. That's fine. I'm just, you know, saying.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. And I would say that, yeah, college is the best time to just explore all of your potential career options. So just try to take advantage of as many opportunities to explore different like industries, different professions that interest you as possible, just because the more you know before you graduate, the easier it will be for you to just focus on finding a job that's a really great fit for you after you graduate.
Thanks, all. I can totally relate to that. Whenever I talk to candidates, I always share that internships are a great growth and developmental opportunity. And even if you decide that, you know, this is not where I want to be, that's totally okay, because that's also another piece of information that you have and something else in your tool belt that you can use for the future. So we're going to take a brief intermission real quick and talk about internships and share a little bit more information on that, because I know some people had questions. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. Can we see that okay? Oh, no. There we go. Okay, so our summer of 2024 applications are now closed. We are currently in the full swing of recruiting. You can expect us to post around the same timeline for summer of 2025. So the September, October, the year before is how we typically work. Our internships during the summer are full-time. They are paid. They're based in Austin, and we're currently doing hybrid. So it's 3 days in office and 2 days remote. There's a lot of different opportunities for you to really immerse yourself in the culture of our company, connect and network with different folks, really learn. We do a lot of fun events as well. So there's a little piece of information about our internships. And then some folks had questions about connecting. So you can follow or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have after this call. We also have a QR code for a talent community. So if you want to continue coming to these events, learn when we're coming to your university the next time around, we'll share all that information to you there. Okay. All right, so let's get to the questions. All right, this is a question for the group, but I know, Melanie, you were touching on some helpful classes that you've taken with your major. So the question was, what were the most helpful courses or skills that you learned in college that you were able to apply to your role with Whole Foods Market? So if you're able to share specific classes or organizations or anything that you did within your college time to help prepare you for where you are today. Let's start with Melanie, and then we'll go Andrew, Brittany, and Arthi.
Yeah, so I was pretty focused in supply chain my last 2 years. So a lot of my classes were very much like operations. I took a procurement class, which I loved. And I took a logistics management course, which was honestly like the best one that I did. And then I also studied abroad. I did a program at UT and through the business school where we went to Hong Kong and we followed products through the warehouses in China through the ports and then all the way to a Target store. So that was really eye-opening to me. And being able to see hands-on, you know, how product is made and where it comes from, and how honestly you can kind of fix the supply chain where it's coming from too. That's what I really like about Whole Foods is we care a lot about how product is sourced and where it comes from, and also how we you know, transport product. So I would definitely look into things like that you have access to. I just did it on a whim. I didn't even know I wanted to do supply chain. I was like, I don't like anything else in business school. I'll try this. And I ended up really liking it. So thank goodness that worked out. But yeah, no, every course I took in supply chain I loved. I hated finance, I hated accounting, I hated everything else that wasn't that. So yeah, I would just say explore those options that whatever your university has in terms of like, I don't know, round tables or info sessions, or if it is study abroad, study abroad. I think most everybody that was on my study abroad trip works in supply chain now. So something like that is pretty impactful.
Okay, I had two different majors throughout my college career, and I'm going to speak to both of them because I think both of them were beneficial in a lot of ways. First was social psychology. So I took a lot of courses relating to psychology and like, you know, adult development and aging and things like that. And I really think that helps get the mindset of like empathy and trying to meet people where they are, like all the different perspectives you can be dealing with on a given day. And that includes, there was a book at the time, The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. I'm not sure who all has read that, but one of those things highlighted in that book was really impactful, and I reference it honestly on a weekly basis, and that's the seek first to understand, then to be understood. So again, just that whole piece of perspective and empathy for and sympathy for other people's viewpoints. And the other side was when I went into marketing and management, and I'm going to speak to statistics. That was a course that was very eye-opening to me as far as data sets and how you can pull together data and analytics. And so it's two different sides of the world, but I figured I think they're both worth mentioning.
So I never finished college. I was a biology major, and most of, actually 90% of my knowledge comes just from on-the-job training. I would say that most, being a store buyer, so like working in the stores and physically, when I was there, buyers were doing the inventory forecasting themselves on the floor in the moment, talking to the customers. There was a lot that we had control of at that time that now is all kind of automated for the store team members. So that I think was my biggest teacher. And I'm an individual who thirsts for knowledge. I like to know how things work all the way around. So while they're not courses, I would say ask questions. People love it when you ask questions. Don't think you're asking too many questions. It means that you're listening and you're paying attention. And I still do like a lot of LinkedIn learning classes. Honestly, if I want to know something in the moment, I'll YouTube it. I'll be at work and I'll just throw YouTube up and I'll just start looking and learn. There's so much training that you can do in your day-to-day as well to continue your growth.
Yeah, I would say in college, my most useful classes to what I'm doing now would be the like quantitative methods class that I took during my master's, and forecasting in finance class I took during my master's as well. But I would say that that was helpful in that it taught me about how to use like a statistical programming language, work with large sets of data. But I definitely learned the most during my first job, where I was actually like just exposed to just the whole messiness of real life data and like how to work with that and make those like small mistakes when you're working with large sets of data for the first time, and just really understanding the real level of detail that you need for just like every part of your job there to make sure everything goes correctly. So yeah, I would say just definitely pay attention to those quantitative classes that you take. And also just when you do have your first job, I think it's inevitable you're going to end up working with data, especially in this industry. Just be really aware of like the the attention of detail that you pay to a lot of what you work with at first, because I'd say that was probably one of my biggest learning experiences when I first started working in this field.
Thanks, Sal. So I think we have time for one more question. So I chose a fun one out of the bunch that we have. But what is your favorite part about working at Whole Foods Market? We'll work backwards. We'll go Arthi, Brittany, Melanie, and then Andrew.
In my day-to-day job, I would say that I have just a lot of opportunity to make my own ideas in terms of what types of visuals I show and what types of like data analysis I do get heard. So I'd say that I like the way that a lot of the leaders here just listen to your own ideas. It's something that I didn't have as much in my previous jobs. And I just like that it's also the industry that it's in. Like I love working like right above a Whole Foods and just being exposed to all of our products all the time and having just like the additional perks there, because yeah, I've loved Whole Foods for so many years of my life. So it's just great to be around it all the time.
Hands down, the people. The people that you get to work with and interact and who teach you are just some of the most amazing people. I've have some of the longest friendships I've had from people that I've met from 10, 15 years ago. To Arthi's point, like their leadership stores are always open. You don't ever feel like you're not heard when you come with ideas and suggestions. People respect you and your space and your time and your boundaries. And, you know, as long as you're communicative, it's just a really great team to be on and to work for.
Yep. Echoing everything everybody said, I think the environment is just very open and welcoming, and you know, there's not a lot of like competition and animosity between people, which I really like to see. Like everything is collaborative. And it's really cool to see a product that you've been spending a year trying to figure out how to get into a store in the store. Like, and it's really cool to see. And I'll never forget when I first saw the first product I ever worked on, starting at Whole Foods, like just being able to go down to the store, see what you were grueling about upstairs, and then, you know, like seeing customers buy it is really, really cool and really rewarding. And I feel like that's kind of rare to see like such tangible product like that, just from the top down, is really, really cool. And yeah, the people are great. I love my team. I love the exclusive brands team. I love everybody that I work with cross-functionally. It just is a really welcoming place that does not create anxiety when I wake up in the morning, which I think is great personally. So yeah.
I would definitely speak to the people as well. Earlier I mentioned, you know, embracing yourself and, you know, your character and all of that. And that's one thing Whole Foods does really well. So it's just, you see people being themselves, and that's really encouraging to be around. And then the other thing I would highlight is just the impact and the purpose that Whole Foods has, like the passion that we work towards as far as environmental sustainability, like treatment of animals, green packaging, so many things that I feel we kind of push the boundary on within our industry and really try to make a difference. And I think that, you know, makes me feel like what we're doing here is really doing something. I have 3 kids, and so the world that I'm going to pass on to them, I'm, you know, anything I can do to try to make it better, I want to be a part of. So I get that here. So.
Alrighty, as you can probably tell, the folks on the call are really passionate about the work that they're doing, the company that they work for. So I just wanted to take, I know we're over time, but quick thank you and appreciation to the panel for being here and sharing your thoughts. And then also a big thank you for all of you for participating today. All right, have a good evening, everybody.